Good Shabbos. This week we are reading from Parshat Behalotecha. We're in the book of Numbers, and begins in chapter 8. And we read, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el Aharon v'yamarta elav beha'alotecha et hanerot el mul pnei hamenorah ya'iru shivat hanerot. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and say to him, when in your lifting up of the lamps, that gets translated as when you light the lamps, but it's not what it says. In your lifting up, in your raising up of the lamps to opposite the face of the menorah, 7 lamps shall shine. Have 7 lamps shine. And Aaron did so. He lifted up the lamps of it so as to give light in front of the menorah, as the Lord commanded Moses. And this was the work of the candlestick. That is, this was the work of the menorah. Beaten work of gold unto the base of it, and unto the flowers of it. It was beaten work, according to the pattern which the Lord had shown Moses. So he made the menorah. This was the work of the menorah. What we read here is a description of the 7-branched menorah that illuminated the inside of the temple. So this was a 7-branched menorah, not a Chanukiah, which has 9 really. There were 7 lamps, oil lamps, which, if you know how an oil lamp is shaped, it's you have a round hole on the top, larger hole and a smaller hole. Pour the oil in, and there's a wick which draws up the oil, the olive oil, and the oil burns through the wick. We have an approximation of the menorah in our temple. Many synagogues have approximations of the menorah in the temple. We have 2 of them, one on the right and one on the left of the bima. As with our synagogue, most synagogues have only approximations of them because a synagogue is not the temple. So we don't have exactly the 7-branched menorah, which would have been in the temple. We have something that approximates it. And the 7-branched menorah is a symbol of Judaism, appropriately so, because it is about casting light into the world. Think casting the light of Torah into the world. Now, in connection with Torah, we have something else here in our Parsha, which is very familiar to us, but it is in an unfamiliar context. We have in this Parsha, Numbers 10, verses 35 and 36. The English is, and when it came to pass, when the ark set forward, that Moses said, Rise up, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered, and let them that hate you flee before you. Those words may not sound familiar to many of you, but if I chant, Vayhi bin so ha'aron, vayomer Moshe, kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'anusu misanecha, mipanecha. Those are words we say at the beginning of the Torah service when the Torah is lifted. In fact, when the Torah is lifted, we say these words which were said when the ark was lifted. At the end of the Torah service, we reach a point where the Torah is put back down in the ark. And what we read begins, Uvenu Yomar, Shuva Adonai Rivivot Alfei Yisrael. That's the rest of this verse, because it says, and when the ark rested, he would say, return, O Lord, unto the 10,000s of the families of Israel. So the Torah service is framed by this verse, these two verses, so that when we are taking out the Torah and putting it back, we are in some sense reenacting the way the ark would be lifted up and then put down. This says to us that when we lift the Torah, it is a reminder of how the Israelites would travel with the ark. When we set the Torah back into the ark, it is a reminder of how the Israelites would set the ark down after traveling with it. The other interesting thing about those two verses, though, is they are set off. They're set apart from the rest of the Torah. When you look in the Torah scroll at that point, you see that those two verses are set off by two upside down nuns. The letter nun appears on each side, used in some way as a parenthesis, possibly as maybe a separate book. That is one explanation, that these verses come from a separate book. But we don't actually know why those nuns are there. We just have traditions that they are. We have many traditions around the written Torah. This past week at Chizuk Emunah, I attended an event that Chizuk Emunah put together, an event with a scribe, a sofer. Chizuk Emunah congregation is commissioning a new Torah scroll. So they brought in a scribe, and there was an opportunity for people to make an appointment to write a letter into the Torah scroll. Actually, the action was you hold the quill along with the scribe. The scribe, the sofer, is holding the quill as well, and the sofer is really directing how the quill shades in the outline letter. There will be other opportunities in the next few months for you to do this at Chizuk Emunah as well. It is considered a mitzvah, a commandment for each person to write a Torah scroll in their lifetime. Now, that's not something which most people can do. By far, it's just a few people who write Torah scrolls. But one way to do this is to write in a letter, and in so doing, you help complete a Torah scroll, because a Torah scroll needs every letter for it to actually be a full scroll. So when you write in a letter to what will be an entire scroll, you are effectively helping to complete that entire scroll, because without your letter, it would not be complete. The commandment to write a Torah scroll is based on a verse in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 19. That commandment reads, that verse reads, V'ata kitvu lechem et hashira hazot v'lamda et bnei Yisrael. So now write yourselves this song and teach it to the children of Israel. Write yourself this song and teach it to the children of Israel. Moses is being instructed about this, but it's taken to mean, as I said, we have many traditions around the Torah. It's taken to mean write a Torah Because what is this, right? Let's teach this song to the children of Israel. The entire Torah is the song that we are to teach to the children of Israel. This verse in Deuteronomy is in Deuteronomy. And so, of course, it's found near the end of the Torah scroll. It is, in fact, so far at the end of the Torah scroll, it is considered the last of the 613 mitzvot, the last of the 613 commandments to appear in the Torah when you read the Torah all the way through. So in medieval listings by medieval scholars of the 613 mitzvah, this mitzvah, the mitzvah to write a Torah scroll, is considered mitzvah number 613. It's the 613th mitzvah. So for me, this week at Chizuk Emunah, I'll tell you, it seemed to me somehow propitious that I was called to enter into the room where the shofar was seated in front of the parchment at precisely 6:13 p.m. And the letter I was given to fill in was the hey in the middle of tohu, as in tohu vavohu. Does that sound familiar? Tohu vavohu. It's near the beginning of the Torah scroll, very much near the beginning of the Torah scroll, as Chizuk Emunah is commissioning a new scroll. So right now the Sofer is focused at the beginning of the scroll. Tohu vavohu. That is what it says. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and all of the earth was tohu vavohu, was chaos. And the presence of presence of God hovered over the depths. Tohu vavohu, chaos. So I was filling in the hay in the middle of the chaos before the imposition of order in the act of creation. Because in many ways, the act of creation it's more than it is about creating something from nothing, as depicted in the Torah. It's about creating order from chaos. Because there already is something there. There's some depths. And tohu vavohu, but order is created from chaos. I have to say, it all felt so appropriate for me at that moment, because that's just how I feel at times, as I work in so many different ways, so many different places, in the margins of community to build up Jewish community. So to be filling in a letter, filling in the place of the Torah, which spoke about chaos, as much as I'm a rationalist, it all felt very, very propitious. The Sofer and I talked about the need for every letter to be in the Torah, just as we need every individual person in the Jewish community in order to be a whole Jewish community. Just as we need every letter for the Torah to be whole, we need every person for the community to be whole. It is often noted that there are 600,000 letters in the Torah, and it is also noted, and even in this week's Parsha, it is noted that there were 600,000 people that comes out of Egypt. According to Moses, in this week's Parsha, chapter 9, verse 21, actually, no, not 9, 11:21. Moses says, the people among whom I am are 600,000, Moshe, Sheshmaot Alfei, 600,000 on foot. Actually, to be more accurate, it was more likely that they meant 600,000 men. So there are many more people, but the principle still becomes established. Each letter of the Torah represents an individual member of the Israelite community. Each letter of the Torah represents an individual member of the Israelite community. Each Jew represents a letter of the Torah. Maybe knowing that Midrash was why it struck me so hard that the letter I was filling in was all about chaos. Just as a Torah scroll is incomplete if missing even one letter, so too the Jewish community is incomplete if missing even one person. In fact, the Torah of our community is incomplete if we are missing the Torah lessons learned from the experience of even one person. We need each other and each other's experience in order to fully know the Torah of our community. One way that I think of fulfilling the commandment of writing a Torah scroll is, in fact, focused on how we live Torah lives. One way I think of this mitzvah is that each of us is commanded to write a full commentary on the Torah, not necessarily in writing, but by the way we live our lives. The life of each of us can be compared to a Torah commentary. We should write that Torah commentary by the way we live our lives, making of our lives a commentary on the Torah. And in this way, as we live out our lives, we are writing a Torah scroll. If the life of Torah, if the life story and life lessons, if the life Torah, the life story and life lessons of one member of our community is absent from the Torah of the entire community, then the entire community is diminished. Because each of us is a letter of the Torah. Everyone is needed. Consider that when you think about the members of your family who may not be involved with us at all. We need them in the fullness of their story, whatever their story is, in order for us to better know our own Torah. There is Midrash that suggests that the light cast from the menorah illuminating the temple, which is referenced at the beginning of this parsha, that light is the light of mitzvah. The light of the menorah that we read about is the light of the mitzvot we perform in the world. When we are commanded to lift up the lamps, remember I said that it gets translated as a practical matter as lighting the lamps, but it clearly says when you lift up the lamps. So when we are commanded to lift up the lamps, we are being commanded to lift up the mitzvot that we perform in our lives as we recreate our lives into Torah commentary. And note too, the menorah that they described was to be constructed of hammered rather than welded metal. The menorah is constructed all of one piece of metal. So too, we are to live our lives of mitzvah based on lives of integrity. The truth of our heart, expressed as the truth of our lives, becomes part of the Torah of our community. We need each other to be Torah together and cast the light of mitzvah into the world. And then we truly can say, Zot Maseh HaMenorah. This is then truly the work of the menorah. Shabbat Shalom.